Matsumoto has been cooking with these last two chapters of Kaiju number 8. Last chapter, it was revealed that Kafka has been working on a bit of a failsafe plan with not just Hoshina, but Captain Gen Narumi as well, in the event that he needed an even deeper ace in the hole, which surprisingly turned out to be having Gen keep a close eye on him as he learns to maintain a minute measure of control over a berserker enraged Kaiju number 8. The reason why Gen was chosen to help Kafka out in this attempt is because, unlike people such as Reno, Kikoru, Mina, or even Hoshina, Kafka doesn't actually hold any value to Gen Narumi whatsoever. In chapter 55, Gen lays his stance on Kafka out flat. Gen basically tells him, "Kafka Hibino, lend us your strength. Who cares if you completely turn into a monster? All I have to do is kill you when that time comes." There is absolutely no love lost should Kafka perish in this process of learning to tame Berserker 8. That's just not something that Mina or Hoshina would have allowed him to do. Which, by the way, is funny because in hindsight, Hoshina's piece of advice to Kafka around the time when he first joined the force was to not get too attached to fellow officers, because anything could happen in this line of work. But when you look at where Hoshina and Kafka's relationship is now, I find that funny. Everyone has grown to respect Kafka so much except Gen. And I actually like the fact that Gen doesn't respect him like everyone else seems to. Gen is still unconvinced and honestly probably still only sees Kafka as just another asset in his quest for revenge against Kaiju number 9, not as an actual ally to be relied upon, and is probably still waiting for the other shoe to drop in regard to Kafka's current Kaijufication problem. That being said, Kafka made the right call unleashing Berserker 8 with only a measly 60-second timer to work with. Kafka is able to tap into 8's unpredictable nature as a monster and use that to not only add extra variants to some of the move list that Kaiju 9 has already downloaded, but also apply some extra force behind his attacks as well. This, combined with Mina Ashiro providing cover fire and support whenever 9 tried to literally out-arm Kafka, enabled them to strategically push the battle zone closer and closer to where Kaiju 14's corpse fell, finally allowing Mina to recover her canon personal weapon. For clarity on why this was such an important move to make, if you are a Jujutsu Kaisen fan coming into this manga for the first time, think of how Jujutsu sorcerers have the base power of their cursed technique and will sometimes apply binding vows or even use full incantations to strengthen their technique. Mina recovering her canon is akin to something like that. Her power is more potent and her damage is exponentially higher than it already is, which means that number 9 has to fully utilize all of Kaiju number 2's power for the shields, otherwise he's simply as good as finito. In my theory, Kaiju 9 tapping into Kaiju number 2 so much is also the reason for his possible downfall at the end of the chapter, but we'll circle back around to that very soon. Mina's cannon blast instantly destroys Kaiju 2's shields in one blow and also damages 9 so badly that his core is fully exposed as a result. If you remember back when Mina was fighting 9 alone, she needed 3 well-placed shots for her handgun to break his shield, and even then, 9 was completely unscathed. So that's just how much more powerful her cannon is by comparison. As we all predicted, this was meant to give Kafka the opportunity to use his last 2 variant squadron-style moves on Kaiju 9's core. However, we know that landing the final blow in shonens aren't quite that simple. This isn't really a final trick, as much as it's just showcasing how powerful Kaiju number 2 is, that another shield can be put up just a few seconds after the first one was destroyed. As quickly as 9 was flexing that feat, he was just as quickly humbled once the control that 9 had over Kaiju 2 was wrestled away from him, and this was done by none other than Isao, the boss, Shinomiya himself. Some people are confused as to why and how something like this happening is even possible, when we saw Isao's mind dissipate and seemingly merge with 9's wider consciousness. However, foreshadowing is a very Matsumoto thing to do. He's done it quite a bit in this manga already. So here's where I circle back to what I mentioned earlier about 9 tapping into Kaiju 2 and that possibly being his pride fall moment. Isao's consciousness returning at a key moment was very poetically foreshadowed earlier in the manga during none other than, you guessed it, Kikoru and Hikari's battle with Kaiju number 15. The Shinomiyas are just built different out here, man. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. That entire family is cracked, and Kikoru was basically on hacks out the womb. But that's another topic. During Kikoru's battle with Kaiju 15, she undergoes a unique phenomenon that allows her to mentally visualize the essence of her mother's battle sense, made possible by the fact that during her life, Hikari's excessive use of Kaiju number 4 seemingly resulted in parts of her mind or ego imprinting itself onto Kaiju number 4's core, or maybe possibly just being a residual memory of Hikari that was recorded by Kaiju 4. This connection to Hikari deepened the more Kikoru heightened her synchronization with the Numbers Weapon 4 suit, which in turn compounded and granted her access to the battle sense of her late mother, quickly boosting her speed and strength mid-match against Kaiju 15. Now, getting back to the present situation at hand, this wasn't something that happened out of left field. Isao's brief return was foreshadowed almost 2 years ago. You might also be wondering how something like this could even slip by someone as calculating as Kaiju number 9. I mean, when you consider the fact that he absorbed Isao's mind into his own, shouldn't he know about something like this potentially happening? But the simple truth is, in his own words, his expectations were surpassed once again. He didn't think something like this was even possible. The very moment he was forced to utilize all of Kaiju 2's power in a rush was the exact inroad that Isao needed. Isao, whose essence is likely baked into number 2's core, for just long enough manages to strip away Kaiju 9's last shield, giving Kaiju number 8 the opening he needed to finish Kaiju 9 once and for all. And lo and behold, he's using the very same move I said he would use, which is in fact a variant of Squadron style number 6, Thunder Emperor. Kaiju 9 is seemingly defeated, although somehow I don't think he is completely finished, but we'll get to that, by his own lack of knowledge, and that is also poetic in and of itself for a character that values knowledge above all else and recognizes that knowledge is indeed a powerful tool. Since Isao didn't have any real cases to study concerning the sightings of past Numbers Weapon users materializing to the current present day Numbers Weapon users, this was information that wasn't relevant to Kaiju 9, and thus he didn't make any plans to counter something like this happening. It even further shows how caught off guard he was when you consider the fact that he produced Kaiju number 15 to easily defeat Kikoru Shinomiya, who he knew would be the likely candidate for Numbers Weapon 4 as a countermeasure. Nowhere in his plans did he suspect that Hikari's lingering will would show up and lend a hand, just like he didn't expect the same from Isao. He really shouldn't have used Kaiju number 2 so much, because when you play stupid games, boy, do you win stupid prizes. And he won stupid. Also, I won't spoil Jujutsu Kaisen for people that aren't caught up to the manga or even the anime, but for those of you that read both manga, chapter 266 dropped the same day, I believe, as this chapter right here. And if you read the two of them, then you know what you know. The latest chapters of both manga are gas for similar reasons, if you catch my drift. And unironically, JJK is one of the reasons why I'm not sure if I'm willing to say that Kaiju number 9 is finished here. The other reason is that we haven't gotten the shocking reveal of Kaiju 9's current fortitude level. I feel like his current fortitude level should have been a big moment in the story, but maybe that's something that's no longer important to Matsumoto. As for JJK being the second reason, Gege Akutami and Naoya Matsumoto have completely different writing styles, but the both of them share in their love of sticky antagonists in their stories. Yeah, that's what I'll call it, sticky antagonists. JJK is only now getting loose from a 6-month headlock of pure unadulterated fade running. If you know, you know. And I'm not sure if Matsumoto is not willing to do the same. That being said, I'm going to take a educated guess that 9 is going to use one last ditch effort to survive. I know there are people that suspect that he may have his beta and gamma copies waiting in the wings to try and pull some shenanigans, but personally, even if they did show up, they wouldn't be of much use, since the Kaiju 9 in front of Kafka has got to be the real one, since this was the body he attempted to absorb Mina with. I highly doubt that he would allow anything but the prime body to do something like that. He could attempt to start a massive identified kaiju resurrection as a last ditch effort as well, but it's unclear if enough of the remains of the Daikaiju 5 are still around to successfully pull that off. We know the white model of Kaiju number 14 is still alive and well, so there's that. There's also the massive explosive AoE that he used to get away from Narumi and Kafka when they were jumping him back in, I think it was like chapter 54. A final attack that almost killed him, mind you. Then there's what I think is most likely, and that's number 9's tried and true method that helped him escape the other 2 times in this manga so far. And that trick involves using 1 or 2 other people in the environment as targets to get Kafka off his back. And what better target than the only other one besides himself and Kaiju 8 in the entire area, Mina Ashiro. I don't know which trick he's going to use, but I feel like it could be any one of those. Or maybe he really will legitimately get back up and start fighting again. That would be insane. But if it were me, personally, this would be the perfect time in the story to put an end to Kaiju number 9 as a villain and move on. In the previous chapter, 9 hinted that he now understands exactly what type of kaiju that Kafka has become. He also hinted that Kaiju number 8 is a kaiju specifically born with the purpose of destroying other kaiju, which was also foreshadowed earlier in the manga as well. It is a trope to do the "oh, and I have one more thing to tell you before I die" type story beat, but it's a good trope that is often used to kick off another whole series of events, one that Matsumoto could use to his advantage if he plans on really pushing this manga further beyond. For Kaiju number 9 to reveal something big about Kaiju number 8's origin and then almost immediately die after would be aggravating and hilarious at the same time. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the past 2 chapters of Kaiju number 8. Please leave a comment, like the video if you enjoy this kind of content, and consider subscribing for more. I'll see you wonderful people on the next video. God bless. Peace.